This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to say it. I've said it before, but it's so important. It's coming out of my mouth again. We all need to heal. We have things that we need to heal from. They go back to most of it, a lot of it, our childhood. We might not even realize what we got going on there, but we've got things that hold us back in adult life, challenges us from moving forward, finding the right relationships, and so much more. How do you do that? Many different modalities, and fortunately, she practices many of them as a transformational holistic coach and more. And those modalities include energy healing, Reiki, hypnotherapy, and so much more. So we are going to learn a lot today from an expert. Kathy Bjerke joins us on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you. How are you today?
Very well. Very well. Lots to dig into. And I'm loving the fact that the modalities are great. The studying is great, but you seem to be very spiritual, and it seems to be a little intuitive too. Would you say that kind of describes you?
Yes, it does.
Do you feel that when you meet somebody, and you're going to work with them and help them transform their life, that you almost got like a vibe on them before you even begin? So it's almost like a starting point.
Definitely. The way I like to get started, though, really is to have people talk about what they want to work on.
Sure.
And what their experience in life has been. Because we can have our own perception, but we really need to meet them where they are and see where they are first, and then just let things naturally and organically unfold.
What are some of the things that people are telling you recently when you first start working with them? Like some of the challenges that they're dealing with?
Right now, I have quite an interesting mix of hypnosis clients. Somebody that has anger management issues, somebody that lost their job. They had a situation happen at work, and things didn't go so well. So they lost their job. They had so somebody knows that they're really off track. I have another person that is struggling with alcohol use and really wants to get a handle on that, knowing that they had two alcoholic parents. And there are some people that just really know that they have a purpose in life and they haven't been able to connect with that purpose. And they know that I am a spiritual guide, a spiritual healer. So they've come to me seeking assistance and finding out their purpose and where do they need to go from here, knowing that there is a greater purpose.
That's a big one, finding your purpose in life. And, in my circles, I'm also in a men's group where for about a year now, very impactful. We work with the community and do a lot of, leadership stuff too, but we also talk about us, our situations, goals, commitments, things like that. And if you were to ask, what is your purpose? And we've done this before. I would say only about a quarter really can answer that question. And honestly, it doesn't resonate with me because I knew what I wanted to do when I was 9 years old. So I see it from a different, I'm lucky in that way. Wanted it bad and just push for it. But the purpose, how important is that, to live a solid, fulfilling life and be happy? Is it everything?
For some people it is. For other people, it's really not important at all. They're just kind of here, they're floundering, they're existing. A lot of people get caught up in some emotions that get them sidetracked and get them off what their purpose should be. We have a lot of fear in our society. That's something that I've had to work on healing in myself, getting through many layers of fear. And I first learned that in my very first career, which was radiation oncology. I was a radiation therapist. I was a dosimetrist. I was a manager of a department. And then I was an oncology massage therapist. I did all of that in Western medicine. And that is where I learned what fear was, because fear is crippling. And people coming in for treatments for cancer are in fear of living. They feel like they're dying. They know they're in there for treatments. But that's really where I learned what fear was and how fear can paralyze people and stop you dead in your tracks, and then you stop living.
Mm.
So people kind of get off the track of where they're supposed to be when they get caught up in certain emotions, fear being one of them, anger, resentment, guilt being another.
That's how
So
these podcasts
that's,
go. You bring up things,
yeah.
and then you just turn the car and steer it over to this side. So we're going to turn the car for just a moment and then go deep into your backstory. But you said the F word, 4 letters, fear. Let's put a little spotlight on that for just a moment. Would you say that, and there's that acronym, and I believe it's spot on, false evidence appearing real. Do you feel that the majority of the things that we worry about, we fear, we let marinate in our mind, doesn't even happen? Like we're just wasting our time?
Very true. And there's a big misunderstanding with people. They think that the issue is kind of outside of themselves, the boss that makes them angry, their partner that pushes their buttons. And really, it's their thoughts that are driving all of these emotions. So, what they're really struggling with is not the fact that they don't like their boss. There's something that they're feeling when they're around their boss. That's the problem. And it's their thoughts that create those feelings.
Hmm.
So the idea of fear is you focusing on that feeling. And it's really just a facade. Because if you could tune into the energy of fear, it's the same energy as excitement, except we assign negative things to fear. But if you could stop your thinking and you could assign positive things, you could make that excitement. And I did that right before I logged on with you today, because of course I'm a little nervous. I have some jitters, but what I can do is I can recognize that, oh, I feel that energy flowing in my body, and I don't need it to be a negative thing. I can make it a positive thing and allow myself to be excited. And that way I'm not stuck. I'm not paralyzed in fear. It's not holding me back. I'm using that energy as excitement to propel me forward. So people really don't understand how powerful our thoughts are. What we're thinking is really what drives our lives.
I've never
And
heard fear described in the way you did. And it's very crystal clear now that it is a feeling, and it's a feeling based on something that doesn't exist. So we're in charge of putting that feeling. So fear, the F word, my first thought here is turn the F word into another F word, fun. So
mhm,
you could worry about doing a podcast. I haven't done this. It's out of my wheelhouse, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
But you could flip that around and make it fun. Like this is going to be fun. We're going to be
yeah,
talking about
it
things
is.
that your passion, helping people. And I sort of got an epiphany a moment ago when you talked about assigning that feeling. I've always had a fear of blood tests, always.
Mm,
Just feared them. I have appointment coming up, for a lab. I change the appointment. I'll go next week. And then that next week would come along. Yeah, yeah, no rush. It's just a routine test. And put it off, put
mhm,
it off. It was unfounded. There was no reason for it. The typical things like, what's going to happen? What about if I pass out? What if they, what? So
mm,
I flipped it around and changed my mindset. This is only in the last 6, 10 months
mm.
to now make it fun. And how do you make a blood test fun? Um, will it hurt? I wonder, am I going to feel anything? Well, I'm going to have a great conversation with the phlebotomist. I always do. We always say a lot of
Yeah,
them are spiritual, by the way. Um, and
yeah,
and just I flipped it around, and then I had some medical stuff going on, and there's a point where I needed a biopsy, 6 needles in my neck. I was laughing. I flipped it. I was laughing.
Yeah,
Like, what are you laughing at? Like, I wanted to see, before it numbs up, like how much pain I could take, and then we're good. It's all the mindset, and I know it's
it
not
is.
easy, and that didn't just happen overnight. It took me time to, the next blood draw, another year later, and then then get into that zone. But I never the description you had, how it compares to excitement. It's the same
Mhm.
thing. It's just the way you look at it. So interesting.
It really is.
Hmm.
Yeah, it really is. And we're very powerful. We're powerful beings and we don't recognize that. But sometimes if you do recognize it, that's scary in itself. And that's something that I've learned with my energy work. And I've been doing Reiki for 18 years now. So when you learn to feel and notice and sense energy,
Hmm.
there's a time, at least for me, where it was fearful because then I started noticing things that I didn't notice before and feeling things that I didn't feel before. And we do have a fear of the unknown because we don't know, ooh, what's going to happen? Can I handle this? We create all these stories in our heads about
Hmm.
what may happen. And really, it's always just an opportunity to learn something new. So a lot of my teachers have told me just be curious instead of being fearful. Be curious. Like you said, bring in that fun piece. Yeah. What am I going to notice? What's
But you're
going to happen?
right. That's what I
Maybe
did. Just what
yeah,
you're
that was
saying.
perfect.
I was curious. I wonder
So
what it's going to feel like. Hmm.
intuitively, you were listening to what I would call on a soul level. If something feels good, that's in alignment with your soul and what you should be doing. If something feels bad, or if you're scared, or if you're angry, or depressed, or anxious about something, that could simply just be communication that, oh, maybe that's not really what's good for me. That's maybe not what's in alignment for me. So, again, we like to use our emotions as kind of like a barometer to what's good for us and what's not good for us. But the another interesting thing is everyone is different. So what is good for me may not be good for you. And we can't get wrapped up in assigning judgment of what's good for me is good for everybody. So we need to learn how to honor that you may have something different that's good for you and something different for me.
A lot of this is coming clearer for me speaking with you, and I really mean that. And I believe that we're here to create, to learn, to teach. We're master
Mm-hmm.
creators, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're here because we created ourselves. um,
Yes.
but we're also doing something else, creating the fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? We made it
Yeah.
up.
We're in charge. We are
Yeah.
completely in charge. And it's just simply learning something new, just learning how to approach something in a different way and recognizing it might be uncomfortable at first,
Mm.
but we need to lean into that discomfort because when things are going easy in our lives, we're not learning because it's easy. We're not being challenged. But when we're in times of our life that we are challenged, that's difficult, our struggles, which is again what we assign to it, it's really an opportunity for us to learn something new. We can learn new things and we can do difficult things if we just allow ourselves to lean into that discomfort, be curious about it. Oh, where is this going to lead me? What am I going to learn from this? How am I going to grow from this? That's been many, many years of work for me on that spiritual level
Mm.
to get to that point where now, if something is difficult in my life, and I have a lot of very difficult things going on in my life right now, but I am taking a new approach like you are and say, okay, what am I going to learn from this? How is my soul going to grow and evolve from taking care of my elderly parents? There's a lot of challenges in that, but I'm going to have a lot of growth for myself. How can I show up in love and compassion instead of resentment and frustration? You know, it's it's my mindset. I'm in charge of that mindset.
Totally understand. Got you.
Hmm.
And it was 3 months ago-ish. I was told I had stage 3 cancer, skin cancer. Um, Talk about some fear. Guess what? It was a mistake. They messed up. It wasn't. Just need a little bit of surgery to remove something and then done. That is it. That's what the biopsies were for. But they messed up. So if I had spent all that time, freaking out, which I didn't, but there was a moment like, whoa, wow, okay. And that went on
Yeah.
for, a week until, more tests and everything. Um, but I could have been riding that train and dropped into that sinkhole
Yes.
of fear. But honestly and truly, I tapped into my intuition and it was saying, this doesn't, all the pieces are not adding up. You know your body and listen to
Good.
within. Tell us your journey, Kathy. How did you get here where you're helping people
Mm.
with Reiki, energy healing, hypnotherapy, spirituality, and so much more?
That's a loaded question. I started out, as I mentioned before, in radiation therapy, radiation oncology. I spent 35 years working in many different areas in that department. And again, this is really where I started to get in touch with what fear was and how it was feeling. And I live in Northern Illinois right now. And for a couple years, my husband and I lived in Michigan. And we moved there, and I got a job in a radiation oncology department. And there was a physician there who was the very first holistic practitioner I had ever met. And he told me, hey, Kath, if you want to really heal, it's not just curing cancer. You need to heal on multiple levels, mind, body, and spirit. And when he told me that, I thought, you are nuts, man. I've never heard anything like this, but he planted a seed. And he also sent both of his nurses, who were radiation oncology nurses, to be trained in Reiki. And I thought, wow, what is that? I had no idea. And I was a very science brain. I was doing a lot of physics. I was a dosimetrist at that time, planning all the treatments. And it was just an introduction to me. So he planted that seed. And it took me 13 years to decide to study Reiki.
Hmm.
So when we moved back to Illinois, and I was in a position that I started looking around as I was treating all of these cancer patients. And way back when, before we had a lot of different treatments and multiple chemotherapy drugs, pretty much everybody was on the same regimen. So let's say if you had, I'm just going to say breast cancer. If you had breast cancer, you had, one of two surgeries. There were not multiples to choose from. And you had one or two, maybe chemotherapeutic drugs. There were not many to choose from at that time. And a very standard radiation regimen. Pretty much everybody did the same thing. It's totally different now.
Mhm.
But back then, I was noticing there were some women coming through with breast cancer that would just breeze right through their treatments and they had no problem. And they went on to live a great life. And there were some people that would struggle to get through their treatments and they were really, really sick and they just couldn't get through it. And then there were some that never finished. And I stopped and I thought, what's the difference? Because everybody's getting the same thing. Why are people reacting differently? And then I started looking around and I said, why is nobody asking this question? Because this is the difference between cure and not getting through your treatments. This is important stuff. I just realized then that Western medicine was not looking for root causes. They were just treating symptoms and moving people on their way. And that just started to not resonate with me. And it just started to not feel right and not feel good because I really wanted to serve people in a different way. So somewhere in that point, I had started to study Reiki and I was looking at things very, very differently and just realizing there was something that I needed to figure out. And it wasn't long after I finished my Reiki training, about 6 months afterwards, and I lost my job. And, we can say it was a coincidence, and I can give you a really good explanation of why I lost my job. But as I look back, I saw that I was being redirected spiritually in my life. And then it was 2008. There was a huge economic downturn. I couldn't get rehired. And I decided at that time that I had wanted to bring Reiki into the hospital setting. And in the state that I live in Illinois, it's a license to touch state, meaning if you're going to touch people, you need to have a license in order to touch them. So that would be massage therapist, that would be a nurse. And I did not want to go into nursing. So I said, well, I can't get a job. I had been volunteering as a respite care worker in a hospice, which I'd always wanted to do. So that was fulfilling, but I wasn't getting paid and I needed to do something. So I decided to go to massage therapy school. And that way I could get into a hospital, I could touch people, I could use that modality. And so that was kind of the beginning of my holistic career. So backing it up a little bit, I started to be really sick. And what I later found out, I had an autoimmune disorder, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, hypothyroidism. And my doctor, my endocrinologist, found that I had these antibodies for Hashimoto's and said, oh, go home and feel good. You've got these antibodies, no problem. And I said, what? Wait a minute. I said, I have an autoimmune disorder. Oh, but we don't treat those. So go home and feel good. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I need to figure out, why do I have this? So I had all of these things going on in my life, and they were all related to the same thing. But of course, you don't see it in the moment. So I left radiation therapy temporarily, got into massage therapy, and then went right back in the hospitals as an oncology massage therapist, thinking, this is exactly what I need to do. And just kept finding that I was more and more out of alignment from Western medicine. And in the meantime, I was also holistically healing myself. So I was seeing in my personal life things lining up that weren't lining up for people in the hospital system. And I have great respect for Western medicine. I have respect for all different medicines, but I was learning at that moment that there was more than one way to do things. And that I needed to make a choice for myself, and I could make that choice of how I showed up to serve for people as well. So that's the long drawn out story of how I've just been continually guided in going away from one direction and pushing me into another direction. And then coming back to the fear, knowing that emotions were a huge part of why some people were healing and some people were not. Some people, you can see they are physically strong, right? They're large people, muscular, they're healthy, they're strong. We can apply that to people emotionally as well. Some people are emotionally strong and some people are not. And how you bring yourself to the table emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically, all of them are going to have an effect on how well you receive your treatments, how well you do, and how much you heal or not. That's what I have realized. And the way I realized that, and I found this fascinating, I was a oncology massage therapist and a radiation therapist at the same time in two different hospitals. I had the opportunity to see the same person in the treatment room receiving a treatment, and then a different day that week be in a different room as their oncology massage therapist. And they were two different people. In the
Wow.
treatment, it blew my mind. In the treatment room, they were scared. They were in fear for their life. And then when they were in the massage room with me, And I was one of the lucky people that had the opportunity to give them half an hour to talk to me. I heard all sorts of things and I saw a different side of them. And it really got the wheels turning for me saying, oh, there is something here. This is what I'm missing. And I just started to connect the dots and I started to see emotionally that these people needed so much more support.
Mm.
Of course, you're scared for your life. You have cancer. Where's that support for you? And a lot of times their families aren't supportive because they're scared for their lives as well. So they don't have anybody to turn to. They don't have that support system. And I was one of the lucky people that could be that support system until 2020. And then I was essential, and then I was non-essential, and then I was essential, and then my program was killed. And I realized, okay, I'm not going to go back again because now I know how I need to serve. Now I know that I cannot do that in this place. So now I need to go on my own. And then it wasn't until after I left the hospital system that I decided to study hypnosis. And now I'm a certified hypnotic coach, and I'm able to address people on the mind, body, and spirit level because I'm Western medically trained. I'm holistically minded and I'm spiritually anchored. And that gives me the trifecta. I can assist people on all levels because I do have that broad spectrum of education.
That's what
And that's
makes you
a
different.
blessing.
That
Yeah.
totally makes you different. And you can meet them where they are or where they need to be and understand. And it's a cliche. I'm going to say it again. There are no coincidences. I believe there are
Right.
coincidental incidents, but
Mhm.
that, where your life went like this, car turning here, over to here, over to here,
Mhm.
and to get you where you are now. But great analogy when it's often been said, like somebody's in great shape, they've worked out, they took care of
Yeah.
themselves, they go in for a procedure or surgery. It's like, yeah, they came out of it, they've healed right away, fantastic. Same thing mentally. And I never even
Right.
thought of it that way. Kathy, we're out of time.
Mhm.
It's so wonderful talking with
Oh,
you, learning so much
thank
here.
you.
If this resonates with somebody, if they're thinking, I need some help. I realize I need to heal. I need to get to the next level. How do they
Mhm.
start a conversation with you? How do they find you?
The easiest way is to visit my website, and the website address is restore mind and body seven, the number 7.com. Restore mind and body 7.com. And there they can send me a message, get in touch with me. I can get back to them and talk about where they are in life and how I can assist them to get where they want to be.
Wonderful. We got like maybe 20 seconds left. We're actually overtime, but I really don't care. Why the number 7 in your web address?
Um, it's just a number that resonates with me. I don't really think I have anything specific. It's just what felt good to me.
I got you. I say no more.
Yeah.
I've got numbers on the wall right now. I understand.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank
Terrific
you.
talking with you. Lots to dig into next time we get together, and I'm looking forward. Thanks again.
Thank you.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.